Hi guys, welcome to the video. Hope you guys are well. This is a very brief quick rundown on the talents for Healing Priest in Season Discovery Phase 6. As I have seen a few questions pop up here and there on the Priest Discord asking about what talent should I get from my Priest. And quick summary is there isn't a straightforward answer. I think the best way to break it down is that there is mandatory talents, then there's useless talents, and then there's talents that you can use for personal preference. So as you can see, I already have a talent tree up here. These are talents that I have that I would consider to be mandatory inside of the build. So just to break things down inside of Season Discovery, Blackout, 5 points. The reason for Blackout, 5 points, is you use this with Shadow Guard. Shadow Guard has great use against spellcasters, melee, and ranged. It has three triggers, so more chance of triggering Blackout and keeping it up. So therefore, it's a really good defensive ability that can save your life at times. Inside of the Holy Tree, 2 points in healing focus, 5 in crits, 3 points into spell warding to gain access to the following tier. Picking up Holy Nova. Holy Nova is good because it can bring stealths out of stealth, and also using Holy Nova on multiple party members can trigger chances at more crits. Same reason you go for Holy Specialization. You want as much crit chance as possible because crits for a priest in SOD is absolutely massive. Crits provide you Surge of Light, crits provide extra shielding from Divine Aegis, and if you happen to use Inspiration, you're triggering that on your teammates for increased armor. And on top of just healing more in general, it's really quite nice. Have 3 points in spell warding, like I've already said. For discipline, the mandatory talents, in my opinion, are Unbreakable Will, Stamina for all your team. Also, there is an additional reason inside of SOD to get this, is that inside of BGs and other PvP events, your HP is increased. So the more HP you get, the more it's amplified. Power Word Shield. This is very much a shield build, so more points into this, the better. Martyrdom, I like 2 points into this because, one, it gives you as much uptime with it as possible, and also increases your resistance to interrupt, etc. As well, I find this to be very important in SOD because there is so much damage, the action is really fast paced, and there is less time that you can spend fake casting. We go with meditation and inner focus, like I've already touched on. Critical spells can do so much for us. I in particular like to use this with penance. Mental agility works for so many of our spells. I find it to be mandatory to have, as well as mental strength, which is something that pretty much every priest will pick up anyway. But the additional reasons why I like this talent in SOD is because it benefits our dispersion and our Shadow Fiend even more. Because if there is a larger mana pool, and because those spells are based on percentages, the more mana, the more we are going to gain back from them. So those for me are the absolute mandatory talents. The ones that I find to be particularly useless, that I see some people go, is Renew. Renew I don't think is a very good talent. On paper it looks good, but what it doesn't tell you is that the amount healed is based on the base value of Renew. It doesn't take into consideration any plus healing that you have from your gear. So it's not as powerful as it might seem. Divine Fury, I don't consider this to be an awful talent. I think in other expansions it's good. But in SOD, I would personally avoid it. The reasons why I would avoid Divine Fury is because, one, spell warding I think is more valuable here. And two, your main heal will be Penance. Penance is much better than Greater Heal. So that's one less reason to use it. And also I find if you really focus on criticals, you can get a lot of your flash heals or your smites or binding heals to be instant. So it devalues this talent even more if you've got other better options which you end up having. So I would avoid this because I think there is better options. Speaking of terrible talents, Blessed Recovery. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually heal that much for us. But the worst part about it is that the critical strikes made against you, the healing on those criticals, they don't stack. If they could stack, it would make it so much better, but the fact that it doesn't makes it utter trash. So it's one, in my opinion, to avoid. So this is the interesting part. So we know the talents to avoid, and we know some mandatory talents to have. The pick and mix, so to speak, talents that you can take or leave, and this is again just completely personal preference, or scenario dependent. So I'm just going to go over these talents now. So the Inner Fire, with 3 points into this, you will get just over 400 armor for it, which is pretty nice. It's not game breaking, but it's pretty nice. The other option I think is Mana Burn. A lot of the time it's useless, but it's quite nice to have that flexibility coming up against certain classes. I think Mana Burn is really good versus other priests. It's good against things like Red Paladins or Enhancement Shamans because their mana pool is not that big. I find it also useful against Warlocks also. So there's times and places for Mana Burn. Another talent in the discipline tree that I think falls under the personal choice is Force of Will. Obviously, if you have time to be a little bit extra offensive, which is kind of nice, it's nice to have that additional damage. And again, someone I already touched on, critical strike chance. This will allow you to either be even more offensive during those times when you do get crits, or again, to use as a flash heal instant. So I think you can pick between these talents as much or as little as you want. Obviously, you will be taking Power Infusion because that is a core talent. The other talents inside of the Holy that I would say would be a good pickup. Additional points into Spell Warding. Obviously, it's nice to have extra damage reduction. And I would also consider Inspiration in this bracket. Some people don't like Inspiration, but for me, who kind of focuses on being more of a team player, I think it's quite nice. On an individual basis, for myself, this is pretty with my current gear, if I was to crit, I would get approximately like 200-ish armor, which isn't that great, I admit. However, what is nice about it is that you are going to be critting often on multiple teammates, and the additional armor that they do gain from inspiration is quite nice. For example, if I was to crit on a Shokadin, I know they can at least get 1,000 armor from that crit, which is not to be scoffed at. So I think there is room for inspiration as an option. So this is what I am currently running. I'm currently running this, but like I said, you can pick and choose as to what you would prefer. I have changed my builds over and over and over again. So it is completely up to you as to what you end up going for in the end. If you want to be extra defensive, there's nothing stopping you going from something like this. Like I said, have a play around with it, gain some experience, but yeah, it's at that point it's just personal preference. As far as the runes go, these are the select that I would recommend. Reasons for these choices: you want Shadow Specialization because it's crucial that you do land your fears, so you at least force cooldowns from your opponent. There is some other options, but I think the importance of that fear landing is way more important than meditation or fire specialization. And when I say fire specialization, this is more of a grenade thing. So often grenades end up getting resisted. So as stupid as it sounds, I don't think it's something that's completely out of the question to actually pick up. But as far as the main talents themselves, Divine Aegis, Surge of Light all works with your criticals, which is absolutely insane, and they're absolutely vital to survival. Renewed Hope works super well with your shields, which is something that you're going to be constantly spamming, which is going to be increasing your overall healing output. Penance for me is the main heal that you should be going to. It works really well with the ZG set, which reduces the cooldown to 6 seconds, which is absolutely insane. Penance is absolutely insane because of the amount of healing that it's capable of doing, but because it's such an efficient heal, it's really kind for your mana, because if you didn't have Penance, you would be needing to use greater heals and flash heals, which isn't as efficient as Penance is. Prayer of Mending, absolutely insane heal, really good supportive heal. Dispersion is absolutely necessary also. In the back and the chest slots, I think there is a couple of options that you could use, but ultimately I think that these two are the best, having used Soul Warding for a period of time, and I used to use Binding Heal for a period of time. There is pros and cons for both, but I think overall Soul Warding is the clear and obvious best. The main reason for Soul Warding being so damn good is, one, you can spam shields, which is great. It increases the effectiveness of your shields insanely, which means versus rogues and warriors is going to be a greater help to you to surviving versus Binding Heal, because shields aren't affected by Mortal Strike. And also you can have shields on you before rogues open on you, so it increases your survival. Soul Warding and Strength of Soul work so well together because Soul Warding gives you the ability to keep and put shields up more often. If you feel there's times where you can be more offensive, you can always trade out the Strength of Soul rune for Twisted Faith, because targets afflicted with Shadow of Pain, it increases the damage from Mind Blast. So this is a very much a high defensive build, which you can alter slightly if you want to be more offensive. if you want to say try the Binding Heal, the benefits I think you'll find with Binding Heal is that, one, Binding Heal can't be purged like Shield can be. And the other benefit for Binding Heal is that it is much stronger than the Flash Heal, and you're able to heal 2 targets. But if you're casting this on multiple people, that means there's obviously a greater chance at one of them critting, triggering Surge of Light, triggering Aegis, triggering Inspiration. But yeah, like I said, I am very much in the camp of Soul Warden being the superior rune. So that's a little rundown for you guys. I hope that this was useful in some way. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them, or questions. I will try my best to get back to you. But yeah, hope this was useful. Thank you for watching. See you guys in the next one.